Velkommen til Kronede Dage, afsnit 128. Mit navn er Rasmus Fjeller Holme. Kronede Dage er en podcast om penge, som du kan lytte til, når det passer dig, men som bliver udgivet mandag formiddag kl. 10. Kronede Dage handler som sagt om penge, det vil sige budgetlægning, investering, opsparing i hverdagen og alt, hvad der er relevant for, at du kan opnå så høj økonomisk frihed som muligt på så kort tid som muligt. En gang imellem så er Kronede Dage sponsoreret af virksomheder, som gerne vil have deres navn ud, som det er i denne her uge. Men i det store hele så bliver podcasten holdt kørende af dig, som lytter med. Og det kan du gøre ved at hjælpe et barn, som du holder af, og samtidig også hjælpe Kronede Dage med at fortsætte lang tid ud i fremtiden. Hvis du går ind på pengepuren.dk/Athen, så vil du kunne finde børnebogen Den rigeste dreng i Athen, som både drenge og piger har haft rigtig stor glæde af, og som har haft rigtig stor interesse i Danmark, så prøv at gå ind og tjekke den ud, pengepuren.dk/Athen. I denne her uge, der bringer jeg et sponsoreret interview med Tanel Oro, som er CEO for en crowdlending-platform med navn Reinvest24. Reinvest24, de giver muligheder for, at man kan investere i forskellige ejendomsprojekter rundt omkring i Europa, som giver adgang både for folk, som måske ikke nødvendigvis har interessen eller lysten eller engagementet til at gå ud og købe deres egen ejendom, men som gerne vil stadigvæk have nyde de muligheder, der potentielt er ved at investere i ejendomsprojekter. Både udlejningsejendomme, men også byggeprojekter, som bliver købt og så solgt efter byggeriet er overstået. Jeg synes, vi fik en rigtig god samtale om rigtig mange områder, både i forhold til Reinvest24, men også lidt mere bredt i forhold til investering og især investering i ejendom generelt. Så jeg håber, du vil synes, det er spændende. Og jo, hvis du lytter med til slut, så vil du også høre lidt omkring et bonusprogram, som de har kørende, og som giver nye investorer mulighed for at få en bonus, der er baseret på, hvor meget man investerer de første 30 dage, efter man har skrevet sig op. Så hvis du synes, det lyder spændende efter interviewet, så lyt lige med til allersidst, så kan det være, at du får lidt ekstra ud af det, ud over bare det forventede afkast, der kunne komme ved at gå i gang med en investering. Reinvest24 har jo et hovedkvarter i Estland, så derfor så er interviewet på engelsk, så det håber jeg, at du kan leve med. Og ellers er der bare at sige god fornøjelse, jeg håber, du vil synes om snakken. Thank you, Tanel, for finding the time to have a call with me now. I'm looking very much forward to hearing about Reinvest24, but also just having a talk about investment market in general and investing in real estate. But I'm hoping you could maybe tell me a little bit first about yourself and also what inspired you to create the new investment platform, relatively new investment platform.
Yes, sure. So first of all, I'm not the actual founder of Reinvest24.
Okay.
Just to be clear, but I have been with the platform from the very beginning. I'm the board member and the CEO. Starting from 2018 June, the platform was launched pretty much at that time as well. Before that, I was working in LHV Asset Management. I was a sales team manager, a leader there. I had quite a lot of experience consulting with investors, and one of the things that really popped out was at least in Estonia. Retail investors, at least, are very keen to own real estate or having real estate as an investment for their future, for their retirement. It's something tangible that will, not go anywhere. You're trying to sell them funds and index funds and stocks and so on. But they're really scared of things that they don't understand that well. And real estate is just something that's very simple and very understandable, and the value. And it has like a real life value because of we all need to live somewhere. We need places to run our businesses and so on. So the value of it will not go anywhere. There will be corrections over time. That's just normal, market cycles. But it will be there.
Yeah.
But the problem is that the entry barrier is quite high, and it's getting more and more difficult over time. With recent price growth as well, for getting started, you need to have a lot of capital. You can make some easier investments. Let's say just purchase an apartment somewhere, rent it out, which doesn't involve that many risks. But if you're looking to maximize your profits, then you need to either have more market knowledge, more capital, and so on and so on. So the entry barrier has been really an issue. for retail investors to enter to this investment that they actually prefer, that they actually would like to get in. And I was investing in some B2B real estate platforms myself at the time. And I was approached with the idea of Reinvest24. At first, it was just about the rental properties, which I really prefer. This is my this is my personal preference when it comes to real estate investments. And I really liked the idea, and took like two weeks to think about it. And I thought, like, okay, I'm still young. I still have time to make changes in my career choices. This whole crowdfunding industry is quite early yet. It's quite young. So I'd like to develop together with it and have the first-hand experience and shape the whole industry and have something to contribute to that field myself as well. So I took that challenge, and since the platform was in a very early stage, it was quite difficult to get the ball rolling. Yeah. Now we're on the 4th year already, and I can say that some of the challenges go away, but then the other challenges come. So it's like constantly you have something that pushes you and motivates you to grow yourself. You're not in that comfort zone where you just go into the office and do your tasks that you do every day, and then
something new all the work time.
5. Yeah, there is something new all the time, and I think for a young person, it's something that is needed for the growth. So you have something that without the challenges, you become comfortable, and that's what I was feeling actually working in LHP. That's it's just a routine, and I'm just doing the same things every day. Basically, nothing really. After 4 years of working somewhere, you already know quite a lot of about the tasks that you need to do, and there is not that much new coming to you anymore. But so in the real estate crowdfunding industry, it's basically it's just in the beginning, and it's just shaping. So like you need to find the path, and you're kind of like a path maker yourself. So you need to innovate, you need to find new ways, and you need to make it all work out. So it's very, very interesting challenge for me, and I'm happy that I took it. And for the past 4 years, I feel that I have developed as a person, as a professional quite a lot, and I'm looking forward to see the developments that the EU crowdfunding regulations bring to the market.
So it sounds like it's for you. It's personal. Your personal interest is both that you like having diverse challenges and always something new, but also because you're interested in the subject of P2P investing, and of course, in particular, real estate. So
yes,
will you tell me a little more about Reinvest24 and more about the different, what kind of loans, what kind of investments? Is it only loans, or can you be a real co-owner? And how does the setup work for you?
Yes. So we have created a quite wide range of products. Each of them have real estate at the end to secure the investor's capital, but all have a bit different characteristics and therefore different risk profile. But we try to balance them out as much as possible. We started with a rental properties, which basically is a co-owning, but we structure it as a loan.
For tax reasons,
because, I guess. There are many reasons. Okay. First of all, the cost efficiency. Secondly, we can give the same benefits and security, even structuring it as a loan. And the ownership also means obligations for the investors, that can backfire at some point, and so on. So basically, with the rental properties, we purchase a ready asset through our SPV. So this SPV is a single-purpose company that just owns it and operates that assets. And investors have a loan with open interest that includes the profits that the SPV makes through operations. That means the rental income that it makes, that is paid out monthly, as well as the profit from the sale at the end of the project duration. So it's in a sense co-owning, where we own it for them, and they earn from what it earns, and we get our fees from it.
And when you say we own it, you own it. You set up like SPV, like you said, it's a company, it's a corporation, right? It's a type of a corporation that owns one specific project. And then as an investor, you are technically lending money to this company.
Yes, correct.
Okay, yeah. So it's like an indirect form of ownership of a property.
Yeah, I mean, the benefits and security is very similar of co-owning property. So you get the profits, you have the first rank mortgage on it. We own it through our SPV, but we are actually just working for the investors to operate it.
Yeah, I would say probably for Danish investors and many other probably as well, it's a big advantage that it's a loan, because then it's much easier to manage the taxes in regards to, instead of getting dividends, you get interest rates. So there's no withholding tax and all of these issues, at least not for Estonian companies. Is that correct?
Yeah, for Estonian companies, there is no withholding taxes. So we pay out everything that it makes, and each investor needs to declare their taxes based on their local laws and regulations themselves.
Yes. And you don't need to apply to get some money back from the Estonian government.
Yes. That's very simplified solution that works really well. Then moving on to our development projects, which are similar.
First, now before you were talking about lending rental companies, right? So that means that you actually buy the property, and then, like you said, the money you get in from renting it out is what the investors get, minus, I guess, some kind of fee or expenses.
Yeah, we have 10% fee from all the profits.
Yes. Okay.
And we have a 1% success fee when the property exits.
And those are generally long-term investments. Right?
Yes. We usually we're mostly on the commercial sector with this type of investments, where we try to cover the properties with a long-term cash flow. So long-term rental contracts, they start from 3 years, and one of our property has an 8-year rental contract. We just extended another one from 3 to 5 years, and so on. So most of those properties actually that we also do some work with it. For example, say we purchase an office space. That we feel that it's under market value, and that there is rental demand in that area, and we do some construction works there, for example, usually interior finishing and so on. In some case, the tenant also covers some of those costs. But we add these construction costs are already added into the funding target when the property goes live on the platform. Sure. And that also increases the value of the property. Once we have the property rented out, the cash flow also that it has increases the value of it, increases the liquidity of it, where it's much more easier to exit that property later on. So, some of the properties come already with a tenant with long-term rental contracts. That these are the perfect ones where, we don't really need to put too much effort and too much work into it. And then there is no uncertainty when the investors will start to earn. But, the best deals price-wise are still the ones where you need to do some work. You need to work for the capital growth. Sure. You just don't hope for the overall market to grow.
Personally, these rental properties are, like, to me, they're the most interesting, because it's an opportunity to buy a property, indirectly buy a property, and then just have a cash flow from the rental income. How would you exit these if you want to?
A secondary market. Yeah, yes. We have well-working secondary market. So since there is no fixed duration for these projects, you might need the money in 2 years, let's say. Mm-hmm. And the secondary market is essential for this type of projects to work, so that everyone can choose how long they want to stay in that investment. And the secondary market works even better than we expected. Yeah. You are able to even include some of the capital growth. Let's say we ordered last year new appraisal reports, and we can see that the market value of that property has increased, for example, 6%. You can actually
your shares will go up as well, about 6%.
Yeah. Yes. You can actually sell those shares with the 6% growth. and realize and get part of that capital growth aspect as well, even if you're not staying into your investment until it's sold.
And since they're open-ended, are you gonna, like, let's say the market just goes up and up and up, are you gonna sell at some point when you know that there's a really good return, or how does that work?
Yes. I mean, we have exited pretty much, like, let's say we only have one property left from that was financed before 2020.
Yeah.
All of the rest of them, the first project properties, all of them have been sold with a quite nice profit. Actually, the rental properties have been historically the most profitable projects on our platform.
Yes.
There have been projects thanks to the capital growth combined with the rental income. There have been properties that generating 20 and above percent for our investors per year. But we don't, in most cases, we don't actively like try to sell them, but we are like putting them out there for some brokers and some of the real estate agencies that we work with, so that they can offer them, but they're not publicly available.
Mm-hmm.
As of right now, I would actually say that I would really like to put more focus myself on those rental properties.
Yes.
And have more of them on the platform. But first 2 years we were mainly like pretty much all our focus went onto the rental properties. But the investors, they didn't really understand that the capital growth aspect. First of all, mm-hmm. that there is actual growth potential in those properties that we're listing.
So they thought the return was too low when they only focused on the rental
income? They just looked the rental income and that was it. And at the same time, there are other platforms that are offering real estate loans with like 12%, 13%. So it was kind of difficult to sell the idea to the investors that, hey, you're getting the actual real estate investment here. This is an asset that will, that will grow in value over time. But it was quite difficult. We put a lot of effort into educating investors and creating content about the overall market situation and, what are those indicators that investors should look into when they're thinking about capital growth and what can they expect for future and so on. But it didn't really get the traction that we needed to grow as a platform. So we needed to widen our project selection that we offer to our investors.
That's when you started segueing into the development projects.
Yes. So our development projects are in a sense similar to our rental properties, as we own and manage the whole process through our SPV, but the aim here is obviously to develop and to sell instead of renting. And the investors in these cases are financing the whole process. That also includes the purchase of the property, where it can be a land, it can be unfinished building, together with the construction cost. So that way we're able to offer a good quality project with higher interest rates, and also from more developed markets like Spain. And just like with our rental properties, we have full control over the whole process, and we have an asset that we're able to sell. Since there is no other debt involved, the defaults are very unlikely to happen.
And which countries are you in? You're in Estonia and Spain, and what more?
Moldova and Latvia.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about
development
Moldova,
projects.
Because I think that's a very interesting idea, and I haven't really seen it on other platforms. Moldova.
Yeah, it is. In Moldova, we currently have 2 development projects of our own, where we just opened a branch in the beginning of the year to increase our presence, but we have quite a big volume of real estate-backed loans, which is another product. So in that case, for real estate-backed loans, we lend to third-party developers against the collateral. And, as Moldova is not very established market, and there is, the capital is not as accessible as in EU countries, for example, we're able to work with a quite experienced developer and very low LTV, which is usually around 50%.
Yeah, and LTV is the loan to value, right? It's the
Yes.
debt relative to the value of the property. Just for
So if the real estate project that we're financing is valued at €1 million, we can issue a loan up to 500,000 to that project. So that project then that money will be used to further develop that property, increasing its value. Let's say it's now 2 million, so we have another 500,000 that we're able to lend there, and we do it stage by stage, and we monitor the whole process very closely. So opening our own branch in Moldova was essential just to increase our presence on that market, to have a better overview of all the real estate backed loans that we have ongoing on that market. And also we see that Moldova has a lot of potential as a market. They're moving towards EU. Their application was just accepted by the European Union. They have a new president that has a goal to take them to the European Union. And the real estate prices when we started there at 2020, the new developments, they sold around €550 per square meter, which is like construction costs today are even more like than that. So we saw a lot of growth potential there. Right now, those same properties are selling for around €850 per square meter. So over this 2 years period, the growth has already been exponential growth. And then we started our first development project in the same district where we have issued quite a lot of loans of one of our main third-party developers, Kirsan. And I kind of lost it here. Like, what was the question again? We were talking about why you were choosing Moldova and what was interesting about this. And it seems like, also my impression is that it's, like you said, it's a growing economy. And is it completely off if I say it's kind of like investing in Estonia or Poland or something 15 years ago, 20 years ago when the market was still low? That was actually where I wanted to get with that. That it really seems like, it really feels like going back like 15 years and being able to develop and finance the development of real estate projects in Tallinn. The price levels are similar, and we were, just starting to be a part of EU. We were in a progress of being approved for EU that time as well. So there is a lot of growth potential, and it does feel like a little bit going back in time and getting the same opportunity that we had here on our local market again, but just a bit.
So if you feel like you were missing out on some of the old Warsaw Treaty countries, now there's another opportunity potentially.
Yeah, I was too young at the time.
Yes.
To execute to get part of any of those opportunities. It is the opportunity that was here in Tallinn that time, but at the time also there was quite a lot of skeptic people that were always but you
afraid. You didn't know how things would develop at that point.
Yeah.
And I guess it's the same with Moldova as well, right? There are indicators, but still we don't really know what can happen in the future there. As here as well.
Yeah, it's always like that. You need to take,
of course,
you need to take some risks. You know, you need to. But in the end of the day, it's all about monitoring and managing those risks.
And how do you select the projects? How do you choose which projects are interesting and worthwhile?
Yeah, so we have kind of like a boutique concept where we are very involved in our projects. We have local real estate teams on each market where we originate those real estate projects. They screen their local market to find those opportunities, to identify, first of all, where those opportunities are, and then to look into those properties. They do the initial due diligence on them, but the decision-making is still happening from our headquarters from Tallinn. So we go over them, we assess the risks, we communicate it back to our real estate team on that local market. We try to set the terms that are, for example, eliminating some of those risks. And we don't just look into the collateral value. We need to go over the whole project budget, the profit margins, see where we can also, we're consulting also with our developers to optimize some of the costs, some of the construction costs, for example. And altogether, we have a very conservative approach towards our project selection. We have more control over the whole process, and we have the asset that we're able to sell if, for example, things don't always go perfectly. We have one project in Spain that we financed, we purchased the land, but some other things have been delaying there with the local authorities. There was one local architect in that area that got COVID, and it was quite bad for him. So he needed to resign from his position, and they didn't find no one to replace him. And now we just have that land plot, and there is no construction progress on it. But as I said earlier, as we have more control and we have an asset, we're now in a process of selling that land plot. Okay. And as the market has been growing and we got it with a very good deal, the profit margin is around 50%.
Okay, really?
That we're in right now in conversation with one buyer, potential buyer. So it pays off the investors. They're always first in line.
So even though the construction project didn't pan out, then the value of the property still increased significantly.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I think we got a very good deal. This is something that we are always very, it's same with our rental properties. I mean, we have this experience already that you need to negotiate and you need to force your terms. It can take 6 months. It can even take 1 year. The most illiquid sweet spot is the properties that are between 500K to let's say 1.5 million. They're too much for retail investors, but they're too small for institutional investors. So the liquidity is quite low. Yeah, the liquidity is quite low for this type of size properties. Yeah. So we're really able to negotiate and find the terms that we want. So this is also one of the things that when I'm telling you about the conservative approach, then we don't just purchase any land plot that you can build on and just finance it on the platform and gamble with our investors' money. But we always want to get the deal where we feel comfortable that we're able to sell it. We're able to, for example, do some legal works with it and sell it with a profit already. So there is a buffer that we can work with. We don't need to hope for the market to grow. It's not the only aspect.
Is the reason that you chose those specific countries? I mean, we talked about Moldova, and I guess Estonia makes sense, of course. But is there a reason that you chose these other countries?
Well, we have been looking towards developing countries since we started out. In Baltics, in some sense, for some people, Baltic countries are also developing countries still. But actually, the competition is quite high in terms of financing in our region. So we knew that we needed to look towards some developing markets. We were discussing and looking into quite heavily Georgia, for example, back in 2018. Yeah. In 2019, we were also considering Ukraine, but the rental income was amazing there. But there are just geopolitical risks, currency risks, and so on. So we didn't want to move forward with it.
But you went Finland
and then we got
right?
our eyes. No, we're not on Finland. We had plans to publish a project in Finland back in 2020. Yeah. But it didn't work out at the end. We are currently. The new markets are Switzerland, for example, which is very interesting as well.
But that's not a developing country.
Yeah, that's not developing at all. The opportunity to find those opportunities, every market has their own niches and their own opportunities to offer. You just need to identify them and make a product or make some kind of framework to work with them. And Switzerland is actually quite interesting as well. Obviously, like a senior. For senior investments, there is quite good access for capital, and it's very difficult to offer the interest rates that we are offering. But for junior, for mezzanine, there are a lot of offers, a lot of opportunities there, and also there is a profit margin to be made there. So, but yeah, this is something new. But coming back to Moldova, we were also looking into Romania. We were looking into, and that's where we got to Moldova, where we were planning actually to start the rental operations there, as the real estate prices were just really, really low, and the rental yields were very good as well.
In Romania?
But it kind of did in Moldova.
In Moldova, okay.
Yeah. So this is how we found Kirsan. The first plan was to purchase some of their properties that they were developing, let's say like a whole floor or 2 floors, get a good discount price as we're entering early and so on. But that kind of developed into looking into opportunities to finance these projects as well. And at some point, we're going to have some of those properties that we're financing the construction works. They're going to come as a rental properties on the platform as well.
Okay. I have to ask, did you look into Denmark as well? Have you ever all considered Danish properties? I think because that would definitely interest Danish investors as well.
Yeah, I know that there is, you guys have also crowdfunding platforms, and I know that one platform is focusing on the rental properties.
Yes.
Is that correct? Yeah.
Yes, there's one specifically talking about looking at the rental, and it's a little bit of a different concept. It's direct share ownership, but I mean the concept is very similar.
Yeah, it's the same idea, but just the structuring is different.
Yeah, exactly. But have you considered Denmark at all?
To be honest, no. We haven't. I mean, we for expanding, we also are. How we got to Moldova as well is that we found a strong partner that we can work on this market.
Yes.
So we don't want to just jump in ourselves.
Of course.
Try to establish something there. It's a lot more to expand if you have a strong partner on that market who has, everything already in place to start some projects there. So this is, we just haven't found anyone in Denmark that's we see that there would be opportunity to work with, but obviously we haven't really looked into that direction as well.
No,
it's rather being developing country. From there, since Kirsan was working already on Spain market,
yes,
it made it also more easier for us to expand there. We already got quite a lot of market knowledge from their side, and they are also the subcontractor for our projects in Spain. We're using them as a contractor. We're using their construction materials. They have good contracts with some of the construction material factors, and from the volume we get a pretty good discount. That just makes it more easier and makes it more cost efficient to not establishing all those things yourself, but already having them in place and just starting the work.
If we look at the real estate market in general in Europe, but maybe specifically in Eastern Europe and in Spain, now we're seeing that the interest rates are going up, which probably will have an impact on the value of properties as well, but it might also have a positive impact on the investors, right? What are your thoughts on the whole development in Europe of interest rates and property prices in the future?
Well, yeah, the inflation and the cost of construction materials, well. Is from one side it's an issue, but from other side it's actually supporting the price action on the real estate market. As I see that the market will slow down a bit, especially for the secondary market properties, but it depends a lot on the property type and the location and so on. So some areas will most likely have some correction. For example, in Estonia, in Tallinn, I can say that the old Soviet Union style of apartment buildings, they're most likely going to have some kind of correction soon. I feel that there is some air there that needs to come out because of those old buildings, they're not very energy efficient. And with the current energy costs, it's not very desirable to own a property in that building. And from the other side, the developers and the supply is pretty well controlled right now because of the construction costs. So the developers are also quite careful. They don't take too many projects. They don't overwhelm the market with new supply. So I think that this is a positive aspect for the new developments. And, the energy efficiency here plays a huge role, as well as the new developed properties are in pretty much all cases more energy efficient. And they're more desirable. The demand for them will not go anywhere with even in the interest rate increase. I don't really see that the European Central Bank can increase the interest rates too much because of the southern countries, Spain, Italy, Greece, especially. So the increase is not going to be as big as it already is, and it's going to continue in USA, for example.
Yes, but what do you think is the biggest challenge? Like, to me, it seems like especially the development projects can be very expensive to do with the hugely increased cost of materials.
Yeah, but the cost of construction materials is coming down now as well. There has been just a supply issue. There hasn't been enough. And
you're seeing the prices already going down?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not going to stay at that level, at least where it is right now. But coming back to what was the original question again?
Well, what do you think is the biggest risk or challenge in the real estate market in the coming, 2-3 years?
I would say that most likely it depends on the area as well. I mean, Tallinn is very different from Moldova, for example, and Spain is totally different as well. Mm-hmm. Like I said, some areas and some sectors will slow down quite heavily.
What areas do you think will slow down?
The suburban areas, outside of the center, the city side, outside of the city, and so on. I just think that the purchasing power will more focus on the prime locations. Mm-hmm. It's probably going to be a bit more difficult, I think, especially for apartments. I think that the housing, the private houses market is not going to slow down that much. It's probably the most secure and the most risk-free for developers compared to apartment markets. But in overall, I think developers need to be able to plan very well and not get over leveraged in this kind of financial situation. That can lead to, chain reaction where, everything just falls apart.
Yeah. So we're back to the conservative approach to property investment.
Yeah, I think that I actually really like that developers are seeing this as well that way. And I think that the strongest ones will, for the new, if I look back at the housing crisis back in 2007, 2008, what was happening was that everyone became suddenly developer. Everyone was trying to make some money with get rich basically overnight.
It seemed like easy money.
It seemed like easy money. Right now, it's not easy money. No. And that's actually a very strong positive factor. Yeah. You need to have the knowledge. You need to be, planning your finances very well, planning all your construction works very well, the logistics, if you're not good at that, if you're not experienced and you don't have the knowledge and you're not having this conservative approach, then I think it can be difficult. It can get very difficult. But it's the law of nature. The strongest will survive and thrive.
What are you thinking about? You could say there are many ways of investing in property. Of course, you do it through the stock market, but I think many people they're looking at the traditional way of you buy a rental property, maybe two, depending on how much you can afford and how much you can loan. If you set it up against the P2P type of investment, like what Reinvest24 does. What do you think there's one way that is better than the other, or does it maybe depend on how much money you have, or do you have some thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a great opportunity. I mean, Reinvest24 and similar platforms, they're a great opportunity for people who are focusing on other areas. They might be specialists in the IT field, or they might have their own companies that they run, and they are focusing on totally different sector. So it's a great place to start and basically be a passive investor and also have some exposure for the real estate market. If you're trying to do it yourself and you have the capital, then I think that it's not that passive anymore. It's a business, and you need to run it, and you need to put more focus into it. Obviously, just you can have 1 or 2 apartments somewhere in the city where you live and rent them out, and it can be pretty much like a passive, but you're just going to get some additional income from it. I think cash flow here plays risk-wise. The cash flow plays here a huge role. So if you have the funds to purchase your own property and just own it, it's pretty risk-free. But if you're loaning money to buy those properties, then this is already a different story.
Yeah.
And the risk-wise, it's a totally different profile as well.
Do you think
so I think that, yep.
Do you think it makes a difference whether you have, I don't know, 100 euros extra per month, or you have a good savings of, I don't know, 500,000, 1 million euros, or is it irrelevant?
I mean, if you have 500,000 of savings, or just, let's say you inherited it, or your company is making you that money, or so on, it still doesn't mean that, you can become a real estate investor overnight and just throw that money on the market and make the maximum gains from it. You still need real estate experts, or you need to be yourself real estate expert. You need to consult with them. You need to, I think that, Reinvest24 is also a good option for those bigger investors that just don't have that market knowledge, don't have that focus on that area, or they're just starting with. So we have quite a lot of those investors as well that are investing, for example, on their own markets into real estate quite heavily. But to invest on different geolocations, it becomes very difficult to do it yourself. So it's a good way for them to diversify their investments and have different have investments on different markets. For example, Moldova is a very difficult market to enter yourself.
Yeah, of course.
And we actually see quite a lot of bigger investors that are coming to our platform because they see it as a easy way to access that market.
Yeah, definitely.
So there are those positive points or positive things that are not just for the retail small investors, but also for the bigger investors.
Yeah.
But if you want to do it yourself and you have the money for it, then I would say that you need to have quite a lot, like 1-2 apartments is not enough to be fully focused on that. You need to have more capital for that, and then it can become your main focus or main activity.
Yeah.
But just couple of 2-3 apartments, it's not going to be enough. I mean, it would give you the passive income to enjoy your freedom, but is it really going to maximize your profit? It's perhaps rather going to support your lifestyle.
What I personally like a lot about, for example, platforms like Reinvest24 and P2P investment in general, and what caused me to try it out in the first place, and that I wrote a book about it, and that this is a subject that I'm very interested in, is this thing that smaller. I see what you're saying, that bigger investors, it can make sense as well to use a P2P platform, but I think particularly for smaller investors, it's a way to get into types of investment that were usually historically were always just for very wealthy people and institutional investors. And right now you can invest in, for example, in property, but also in loans, other kinds of loans that usually was only for banks and other very wealthy institutions. So you have maybe you could call it a democratization of the investment opportunities. And I've seen, of course, that this is a trend that has been growing since, when did it start? 2003 or something like that. And it's grown exponentially since then. And we've also had the sort of financial crisis from 2020, and now a new one that didn't really indicate that this is something that is going to go away. But I would like maybe to hear if you see, because you're working on this every day, if you see some developments, something going on like politically or economically or technologically that we should maybe look out for in the future, and things that could make it, I don't know, more interesting, less interesting, something that will happen in the future that is worth knowing about when you're going to invest in any kind of P2P projects?
Yeah, first of all, I would like to come back to the 2020 COVID crisis, where many platforms from Baltics didn't get through. I think that was, one of those points where we just saw quite a lot of changes, especially how investors view things. I was, if you look back at my interviews from 2019, I was pointing it out as well that, investors should make sure that they understand where their money is going and how this profit is made.
It was going a little crazy back then, for sure.
Yeah, you can't just rely on the number that some website offers you, like 20%, and okay, I'm going to send all my money there. They say that it's a 20%, so it must be true. And now that really changed with the 2020 with Prepare and some of those other platforms not making it through, and probably there was some scams involved as well, and some fraudulent activities and so on. So the investors became more cautious. I think it kind of like educated the investors in a hard way.
This is definitely what I saw as well. We had a lot of there was this gold fever going on in up to 19, and then we had these issues that happened in the early 2020, and we had some platforms that went down, and like you said, probably some of them were scams and fraud of some kind, and we definitely see a cleaning up in a way that we got down to earth, and we figured out that this is not just you can throw whatever money you want at whatever thing and you will make a ton of money, which it sucks for those people who lost a lot of money. Definitely sucks, but I think it's better for the crowd lending, crowd investment concept as a whole, because people are way more critical and way more conservative in how they invest.
I think the same way. I mean, if it didn't happen back then we would have a bigger problem in the future. It would have been worse, and it would have really, it could have damaged like the whole P2B industry, in a point where it would take a lot of time to get out of that. Yeah.
We also saw that we got through this thing, right? And some platforms failed, but the whole P2P investment still exists and it's still growing.
Yeah, I mean, it was for the well-working platforms, it was like a risk challenge. How well those platforms are actually managing their risks. How well are those due diligence made? How well is the structuring done, and so on and so on. So it was kind of like this point of proof where everything that you're saying and presenting, you actually need to show now, like how you're managing those things, and the platforms that came out of that those platforms are growing rapidly, and I can say that this was actually the point where Reinvest24 started to grow quite rapidly. Before that, it was quite easy to compete with those platforms that were giving like just unrealistic promises, while we were trying to tell that, you get 6% rental income and then there is a capital growth at the end, right? And they were like, okay, cool.
And but I say 25% per year.
I have Investio here. I can get 25% from there. So I rather go there, But starting from then, where we, in 2020 we grew 300%. Last year we grew another 300% on top of that. So it was kind of like a proving point that how well you manage your risks, and the stronger ones and the ones that are putting more focus on the black scenarios as well, that the whole market might collapse, like what will happen then, and so on. And that we're taking those risks seriously as we did. They are doing well now. And I think that with the EU regulations coming into force by end of the year, we will probably see some of those players also, some of the players falling off, some of the market participants choosing other directions and so on, going for other type of licenses or, the crowdfund. in the crowdfunding. In the crowdfunding, there will be another set of purge. I would say in our region at least.
Can you tell us a little bit about these EU regulations?
There. I wouldn't go into all the details. It doesn't really. Give investors some security similar to, for example, bonds or financial brokers or this other type of higher tier regulations or licenses. But it eliminates those, first of all, scam platforms. Secondly, those platforms that are not really having proper risk management and the procedures in place. So altogether, it will make the whole B2B industry more safe because of the market participants will have stronger procedures in place. They will be supervised by local financial inspections, authorities.
Okay.
And it will also, for B2B industry in overall, it will also open the door for onboarding financial institutions.
In which way?
In many cases, let's say some real estate funds or pension funds even, first of all, they have restrictions where they can invest, how they can invest. In many cases, they cannot invest directly into B2B platforms. But the fact that the EU regulation, that the EU regulates the markets, changes this for some of the market participants.
You think
and they would be able to.
You think there's a risk that the institutional investors will be pushing out small individual investors?
To be honest, I expect to see it in some fields, yes.
Like in the market in general, or what do you think?
No, I think that it will not be in market in overall. It will rather, I think that, for example, in real estate sector, there will be different tier of investors, different level products. Like say, you have an institutional investor that gives you cheap money, but they're going to get the first charge, and then the retail investors on the platform will get the second charge, for example, and they're going to get like 15%, 16%. They will just get higher interest rates. I don't really see it as a very negative thing. I think that there is always the room and the opportunity for retail investors to participate and to continue to invest into B2B. But for example, for us, those bigger development projects, let's say that are 10, 20 million, they're actually the risks are actually lower for these projects and the profit margins are higher. So there is a lot. It opens kind of a door to work with the lower risk projects that can offer the same yield or even higher yield for the retail investors. Because
it's easier to fund it? Because it's hard to fund a 10 or 20 million euro thing with only retail investors?
Yes. Okay. I mean, it's possible, but the thing is that if you take in like a project that's 10, 20 million, then your investors are not going to just want to invest all their money into that project. You can't just, they want to diversify.
Yes,
they want.
So you need a lot of investors.
If you take, but now if you take 10 projects like this in, then you already have, then you already need to finance 200 million. Yeah. So you can't really work with those projects at this stage.
Sure. Okay.
It just opens new opportunities, and I don't think that the opportunity will. I don't see that it will have a really negative impact. I think that those financial institutions also will add some credibility for the projects, as their due diligence is very extensive. They go over things. They're not going to invest into something that's gamble or it's speculative or is like we seen in 2020 total scams. They do their homework very properly, and that also adds some credibility for the projects.
Okay, while still allowing space for retail investors.
Yeah, there will always be that. We see that in UK market, for example, where the senior funding is quite rare. I mean, the platforms don't really focus on the senior funding because just the interest rates are very low and accessible. from the institutional investors. But there is still plenty of opportunities for junior, for mezzanine, for second charge, and so on. So there is still this opportunity. Those projects will be managed very well. Those bigger projects will have lower risks and bigger profit margins, and so on. So it's something that's not going to impact negative. I think that's rather going to be a positive impact for the retail investors.
Okay. What about you as a platform? What challenges are you facing now? What are your biggest challenges, both in terms of maybe, I guess, finding the right projects, but also, I don't know, finding the right investors? What is it hard to tell the investors that they should know? What are you working on that is a little challenging?
I would say that the challenging part has always been finding the right balance between the volume of investors and the volume of investments you get, and the volume of projects that you bring to the platform. Because for example, when you start with some project, like I made an example earlier, for example, 10, 20 million, or even 2 million, you don't fund that straight away. You need to plan it for 1 year, maybe 1.5 year even period. So you need to have this pipeline of projects all the time, because the investors want the volume of projects. But from the other side, you can take in, some of those projects that you really see that are very low risks and very high profit margin. And, there is not much that really can go wrong with those projects, but you can't just take them in, because you need to have a wide selection of investment properties. Investors are not going to like to just invest into 1 or 2 or 3 projects in 1 year time. They would like to have, basically every week something new, and they will just diversify. They put a little bit here, a little bit there, and so on. So you need to find this balance, and you need to plan it out very well. So you always have these new projects coming in, and at the same time, you also you need to grow always as a platform. You need to attract new investors, and you need to keep the investors that are already on the platform active by giving them something new and something interesting, a new market, a new product type, a new development, a new rental property, and so on and so on. It's probably the most difficult thing to balance it out between all the aspects, finding the right balance.
What about the investors? What are their most common concerns? What do you hear from them often?
Well, I would say that, obviously the concerns are that, am I going to lose all my money, and what's going to happen in the worst case scenario? This is, something that investors should think about. I think that this is the concern that is right to have, and you should have this concern, and you need to ask those questions if you have, some of these concerns, and we're happy to deal with that. Back in 2020, when all this, situation with the COVID lockdown started, uncertainty on the market, retail investors are quite difficult to work in these periods, because they will just, ask you they don't care about the progress of the project or what's happening. They just want to know when they get their money, pretty much. And no other explanation is worthless. They don't take the time to even explain what's happening. They just want to know exact time when they get the money back, right? With the bigger investors, they're more usually sophisticated investors. They understand how things work better, so it's a bit easier to work with them in these periods.
You mean still bigger
right
retail
now,
investors?
Yeah. Still retail investors, but just investing 50, 100K, they understand what they're doing. They don't just throw their money on the market and just take it and give me some interest rate for it. Yeah, they've done the research. We're usually having, they're having calls with me, so we go through some of those things about the projects. And if I'm actually not putting a barrier there, you need to be a big investor to have a call with me or to email me or ask anything. I'm very, very open to have these kind of discussions with even a small investor who plans to invest 500 euros, and so on. But yeah, we don't really have much concerns with our investors at this stage. We're doing, I think you just need to keep your investors updated. You need to show them the progress. You need to do all those things. You need to follow up, not just finance the project and that's it. And now you wait until you get your money back. But if you're putting in the effort to keep your investors up to date with everything, then you don't really face so many concerns. If you're going to be in silent and they don't have any idea what's going on with some project, then you just will have more of those concerned investors that are going to ask you tons of questions and just want to know when they get their money back and so on. So you need to put some focus and work on that as well. We have insider updates. We even have live security camera streams from our Moldova real estate development projects, so that investors can go and see actually how the floors are, how those properties are, how those buildings are being built there, So we try to put a lot of focus on that to keep investors up to date, to give them an overview, to give them the feeling that they see and they see the progress, they see where their money is going and what's happening and when they can expect their profits to be repaid.
And if something is not going according to plan, I assume you also keep them informed about what's happening.
Yes, of course.
So,
yes, of course.
What about Reinvest24 in the near future, maybe the next year or something? Do you have something in the works? Are you working on something new or interesting?
I think we are constantly trying to find those interesting ways how to develop the platform, how to offer something new, innovate, or try to either open new markets, open new project type. We just started with green energy projects, for example, which I see that is a very interesting area as well. Like, and there is a gap in the finance. Solar panel parks, for example, yes. With the current geopolitical situation, the energy is a quite hot topic, and it's not going to go away. We don't have Europe doesn't have the resources to sustain itself. So we need to find the ways how we have that energy supplies to sustain ourselves. And the green energy is one of the sectors. The whole EU has created quite a lot of normatives that EU countries need to follow. They need to have certain percentage of their energy consumption coming from the green energy and so on. So the governments are very supportive. Financial institutions, they're not very interested to finance those projects in an early stage, but they're very interested to refinance them once they're fully operating and generating stable cash flow. So this is the gap that we see in the financing or the opportunity that we have identified. In Moldova, the government took the first step by allowing to create those green solar parks, for example, on agricultural land. So you don't need to go through these extensive legal processes to be able to start building something. You can just have an agricultural land and just build it there and connect it with the utility network, and it just simplifies the whole process. So our first green energy project is from there. So we're constantly looking to expand. We most likely will have new markets coming soon as well, where we might have a new product type as well. It's a bit too early to talk about it right now, or to give you.
Can you reveal a little bit?
Yeah, I can say that it will most likely bring a new product type on the platform, but it's still a bit early to give too much information.
So when will we hear more about that?
I believe in autumn, if everything goes well.
Okay.
But we have quite a lot of things in work, so something else might even come before that. We are looking to develop the platform. We're currently in a progress to upgrade our whole interface, giving investor cabinets a lot of new features that will give them a better overview. We're also going to rearrange the whole property section, making it, and also the secondary market, making it easier to navigate through project and stages, and the same like filters for the secondary market and so on. So a lot of things in the pipe for the platform development, as well as potential new markets and new products that we're going to bring on the platform. So yeah, a lot of things are in progress, but unfortunately they're not in a stage where I can to give you more details about them.
Tanel, if you had about 30 seconds to make a quick elevator speech about Reinvest24, what would you say?
Well, I would say that over the period of 4 years in business, our selection procedures and our risk management has proven to get through even difficult times. We have been managing those risks well, and our investors are always first in line to get paid. And there is always real estate at the end of the investor to your investment. So I would really like to urge your audience to lean towards collateralized B2B investments rather than just unsecured B2B investments. Because if things, in the economical situation go bad, then the chances that those uncollateralized loans or investments will be recovered is quite low compared to the real estate. If you have something at the end there that's actually has a value, even in whatever happens in the world, real estate will always have value. There might be some period that you need to wait for it, but the chances that your capital is going to be recovered is quite high.
Thank you. It's been very informative, very interesting to hearing from you about what you're doing and what's going on, but also to hear a little bit about your view on real estate investment in general. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Rasmus. I really enjoyed having this discussion with you and giving out some of my thoughts and ideas and how I view things and what are the plans for Reinvest24.
Tak fordi du lyttede med, og jeg håber, at du fik lige så meget ud af den her samtale, som jeg gjorde, da jeg talte med Tanel. Jeg synes, det er både et interessant koncept, jeg er gang i, men også bare interessant at vende sådan nogle emner med andre mennesker, med folk, som har fingrene nede i materien, når man så må sige, og som har noget erfaring med det her område. Som jeg nævnte i introen, jamen, hvis du synes, at det kunne være spændende at prøve at investere hos Reinvest24, så har de for tiden et bonusprogram kørende, som betyder, at du kan få en bonus baseret på, hvor meget du investerer, hvis du altså er ny investor. Hvis du allerede er investeret hos Reinvest24, så er der desværre ikke mulighed for at benytte sig af det her. Ideen er, at hvis man investerer et bestemt interval, hvis du for eksempel investerer mellem 500 og 2.000 euro i løbet af de første 30 dage, jamen så vil du få en bonus på 25 euro. Hvis det er 2.000 op til 10.000, så er det en bonus på 50 euro. 10.000 op til lige under 100.000, jamen så får du en bonus på 200 euro. Og hvis det er alt over 100.000, jamen så får man en bonus på 1.000 euro. Alt det kan du lære mere om, hvis du går ind på deres informationsside, deres terms and conditions omkring den her bonusmulighed, og den kan du finde inde på, det er nemmeste, hvis du går ind via pengepuren.dk/r24 bonus, altså pengepuren.dk/r24 bonus, så vil du komme direkte derind og få noget information omkring, hvad deres conditions er for, at man kan få udbetalt den her bonus. Og ellers så er der kun at sige, vi tales ved i næste uge. Der har jeg et andet spændende emne på programmet, men jeg vil ikke helt afsløre det nu, fordi jeg skal lige have helt styr på, hvordan og hvorledes. Ellers så er der bare at sige tusind tak, fordi du lyttede med, og pas rigtig godt på jer selv derude, og husk at nyde sommeren, mens den er der.